Welcome to this week's virtual Drasha. I'd like to begin by thanking our sponsors, to thank Andre and Marion Katz for dedicating the Drasha this week in commemoration of the Shloshim of Andre's father, Mr. Louis Katz Mordechai Ben Chaim HaKohen, who was a Holocaust survivor who was Zocha to Arichos Yamim until 101. We hope that on the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshama will have an Aliyah and the family a Nechama. We have the incredible privilege this week to read Parshas Titzaveh. And Titzaveh is part of the grouping of Parshos which discuss the creation of the Mishkan. And in Titzaveh, there is a particular focus on the Big Day Kahuna, the unique and special Kohanic vestments, garments that were an indispensable part of the Kohen's service in the Mishkan and of course later on in the Beis HaMikdash. And after a discussion regarding the garments, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu the following message, and this is in Perek Chav Ches Pasuk Aleph, chapter 28, verse 1. V'ata, now Moshe, here's what I want you to do. Hakrev elechas Aaron achicha, bring Aaron your brother close to you. V'yes bana vito, together with his sons. Mitoch b'nei Yisrael lechahanoli, and I want you to bring them close to you, Aaron and his sons, that they should be the Kohanim. Aaron, Nadav, Avihu, Elazar, v'itamar b'nei Aaron. So in a dramatic pasuk, it's in this pasuk that Aaron and his four sons are inducted into the Kahuna. They become the Kohanim. And being a Kohen has incredible privileges, closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but also awesome responsibility. So Chazal pick up on this word choice. Hashem says to Moshe, Hakrev elecha es Aaron achicha, bring Aaron close to you. Why does it say that? Why doesn't it just say, Moshe, tell Aaron he's the Kohen. Mazel Tov, you are the Kohen. You and your sons, you are the Kohanim. Why Hakrev elecha? Why bring him close to you? So the Mefarshim go in different directions, but some explain that Aaron was reticent. Aaron was reticent. In fact, a little bit later on, we see the lashon of kach es Aaron, take Aaron, and Rashi explains kachenu bidvarim, take him with words. As I was mentioning before, the kahuna comes with awesome opportunities, but it also comes with awesome responsibility. The awesome opportunity, of course, to work in the Mishkan, later on in the Beis HaMikdash, to achieve a level of closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a dramatically different way than the average individual. On Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol is the only individual who is able to enter into the Holy of Holies. So opportunities for unprecedented closeness, but also dramatic responsibility. And as we see later on, Rachmana litzlan with Nadav and Avihu, if one messes up in the context of Kahuna, in the context of temple service, the stakes are very high. So the Pasha Pshat, Hakrev, bring Aaron close. He may be reticent to accept this position, so bring him softly. Encourage him, bring him close to you. Don't go ahead and say, Aaron, you're the Kohen, get to work, show starts, Hakrev elecha, do it gently, do it softly. But I saw an incredible insight by the great tzaddik Rameir of Premishlan, and the Rebbe says something dramatically different. What does it mean, Va'ata Hakrev elecha es Aaron achicha? What does it mean, you Moshe, bring Aaron close to you? So listen to the words of the Rebbe. I'm going to read to you something. It says, Moshe hayanote lehisbodedus. Moshe Rabbeinu was a person who, the truth is, had an atiyah, almost like an inclination or a proclivity, a desire to be alone. Hisbodedus, to really be alone, him and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He quotes the pasuk that says, "U'Moshe yikach es ha'ohel v'natalo michutz lamachan." And Moshe Rabbeinu took his tent and pitched it outside of the camp. Now, granted, there are circumstances which ultimately necessitated that, but the Rebbe Premishlan says Moshe Rabbeinu's his personality was one of his bodidus, was one of being alone. If I could just be me and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what I could accomplish as an individual, what I can make of myself could be incredibly dramatic. By the way, I want to point out, it wasn't just Moshe Rabbeinu who was like this. David HaMelech, for example, had this same quality. In Kapitel Chof Gimel, chapter 23 in Tehillim, David HaMelech says, Mizmor LeDavid Hashem roi lo echsar, Hashem is my shepherd. And the commentaries point out, it's interesting because no one really ever called God a shepherd until David HaMelech. And the Malbim and others point out that David HaMelech, there was a subliminal message in this, which was, all I want is to be a shepherd. I never wanted to be a king. I never wanted to be a king. The truth is, I never really even desired to be amongst people. The best times of my life, David HaMelech says, is when I was alone in the field, watching over the sheep. The sheep may be challenging, but they don't talk back. They may do their own thing, but they're not chutzpahdik. They may go ahead and have their own wants, but they're not difficult. David HaMelech says, those were good days. I was just out in the field. It was just you and me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what I yearn for. Moshe Rabbeinu had this same midah. Note elehis bodedus. Moshe Rabbeinu, when was Moshe Rabbeinu's most incredible moment? When he was on the mountain. Arba'im yom va'arba'im laila, lechem lo achalti, mayim lo shasisi. At the end of the day, Moshe says, Ribbon Shalom, it's just me and you. That's when I become the best version of myself. He was noteh lehisbodedus. Comes along HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the Ribbon Shalom says to him, your brother's very different than you. Aaron, we know, was mu'urev mabrios, like the Mishnah in Perkei Avos says, Hevi mi talmidav shel Aaron, be like a disciple of Aaron. Oev shalom, verodev shalom, love peace, pursue peace. Oev es habrios, love people. Aaron was a man of the people, right? Aaron was always whether he was making shalom, whether he was lifting people up. So it's fascinating. Two brothers, same parents, yet dramatically opposite personalities. Moshe Rabbeinu notel his bodedus was kind of preferred to just be by himself with the Ribbon Shalom, and Aaron always with the people, always mu'urav im habrios, not just pleasant with people, but ultimately mixed together with people. So says Meir Premishlan, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, I love you, you're incredible, your hisbodedus is magnificent. When you're on the mountain with me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, there's no one I'd rather be with. But, Va'amar Hashem leMoshe, sheyikrav el atzmo esmidas Aaron, v'yisarev el ha'am. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, you cannot be an ivory tower leader. You cannot live your life up here with me on the mountain. V'ata Moshe, hakrev elecha es Aaron achicha. Bring the midos, bring the approach of Aaron close to yourself. I want you to be more like your brother. It's the one thing that parents are never supposed to say to their kids. I wish you were more like your brother. Terrible. Except when the Ribbon Shalom says it, because it comes with love and it's constructive. Moshe, you are exceptional. Lo kan bi yisrael ki Moshe. No one talks with me like you do. No one interacts with me like you do. No one advocates on behalf of the klal like you do. But the ata hakre velechas Aaron achicha, there is something to be learned from your brother. Do you see the way he's with the people? Do you see the way he lives and breathes daily life with the people? You have to do that also. You have to be part of the klal. You have to be intertwined with the nation. The Rebbe goes on, Manhig ha'am lo min hamidahi shi'ehei misbodeh. The leader can't be distant and aloof on top of the mountain, even if that mountain is Har Sinai. You have to be in the trenches together with the people. V'ata, now you, Moshe, hakrev eleches Aaron achicha. Take the midas of Aaron and bring them close to you. Become mu'urav im habrios. Step down from the mountain and intertwine yourself with the daily lives of the people. And the truth is, the Rebbe is teaching us a number of dramatic lessons. Of course, it's an incredible lesson in leadership. Aloof leadership doesn't work. Aloof leadership does not transform the flock. Aloof leadership might be good, or aloof or detached leadership might be good at certain strategic times, but the real koach that a leader has is when he is in the trenches with his constituents. The real koach that a leader has is not as a Moshe, but it says, and I want to point out something amazing. Moshe Rabbeinu is in the trenches in times of crisis, right? Whenever something goes wrong, Moshe Rabbeinu is there and he advocates like no one else. But the impact that a leader has is not just in moments of crisis. The impact that a leader has is also in times of shalom, in times of simcha, in times of good. In the day-to-day of shalom aleichem, how are you? So nice to see you. That was Aaron. It wasn't Moshe. But yet Hashem says to Moshe, you need to be a bit more like your brother. But I think there's also another lesson. And I think it's something that all of us struggle with in different ways, which is, often when I look at how I spend my time, there are two different ways I could utilize my time. I could utilize my time building myself up, or I could utilize my time interacting and helping the other. And for many of us, that's like it's a tug of war. I know it's important to give to the other. I know it's important. I don't mean money right now. I mean that's important also, but I mean time. I know it's important to give of myself. I know that Ploni over there, Ruvain, is having a difficult time, and I know that I probably should give him a call or walk over to him and say, Shalom Aleichem, how are things going? But to be honest, like, then it's a 15-minute conversation. And the truth is, that's 15 minutes that I could be using for something else. And again, I mean something positive. I could be learning, I could be growing, I could be davening, I could be this. There's often this tug of war between focusing my kochos inwards versus ultimately being there for the other. And it's hard to find that right balance. And this was kind of like the tug of war of Moshe and Aaron. Moshe felt, my kochos are better served being on top of the mountain. My kochos are better served pitching my tent outside of the camp. And Aaron was like, my kochos, I have to be in the people, to be mu'urv. How could I help? What could I do? How could I improve the life of the other? How could I be there for the other? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu essentially tells Moshe, you gotta be a synthesis of both. In life, you can't be just a Moshe and you can't be just an Aaron. But you have to be the kind of person who finds a way to plow kochos into yourself, but at the same time always be there for the other. You know, we're familiar in the beginning of Parshas Vayera. So the pasuk says that Avram Avinu was sitting outside the tent post circumcision. Vayera lav Hashem. Hashem appeared to him. He's talking. They're having a whole conversation. Avram sees the malachim. He essentially leaves God and goes to the malachim. And so the Gemara says, you see from here that achnasas archim, hospitality, is greater than kabbalas pnei hashchina, is even greater ultimately again than sitting and receiving honor. The Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh says, what's the deeper message of that? You see, he says a lot of times when you perform achnasas archim, you have people, you have people at your table, you surround yourself with people. This one's going to speak Lashon Hara, and this one's going to tell an inappropriate joke, and this one's going to do this, and you're going to say to yourself, what do I need this for? I'm trying to be a better person. I'm trying to be a holier person. Wouldn't it be so much better if I just kind of pulled out from all of these things and was just mispode just by myself? To that Chazal say, no. It is better to be there for the other, even if your personal piety takes a little bit of a hit. Better to be a little bit less personally pious, but to be the kind of person that is there for others. So it's wonderful to be a Moshe, but only if you could combine it with an Aaron. This is the balance we have to try to find. Kabbalas Pnei Hashchina is incredible, but apparently Hachnasas Archim is even more important. And even though the Hachnasas Archim may cause me to take a little bit of a hit, I didn't want to hear that joke. I actually don't want to talk about this at the table. I actually don't. So again, all of this achnasas archim is not only pulling me away from my personalistic service, but it may be even exposing me to things that it's a balance. It's a balance. And sometimes it is better to give up of your own personal piety to be able to be there for the other. This is the challenge we have in life. And this was the musar that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was telling Moshe. And this is the struggle, the balance that we have to try to create for ourselves each and every day, to be a synthesis of a Moshe and an Aaron. We have the privilege to go this week from Purim into Shabbos. And Purim into Shabbos, Purim, the essence of Purim is, Haman said, Yeshno am echad mefuzar umefura ben ha'amim. So Haman said, we don't love each other. Haman said, we're always arguing. Look at these people, they're persecuted, everybody hates them, yet they still don't even like each other. And the entire avoda of Purim is to show Haman, you were wrong. We love each other so much. We're always here for one another. We're always willing to do for each other. It's true, sometimes we don't get along, but sometimes, as every family knows, you might not like someone, but you still love them. We have to find a way to build ourselves up while at the same time be there for the other. It can't be an either or. I can't say, you know what, I'm deciding to devote my kochos to myself. Me, I'm a Har Sinai Jew. I'm a Hisbodedist Jew. The interacting with others, the chesed, the bringing Jews, the creating the glue of Am Yisrael, that's not for me. On the flip side, to say, I'm all about the people, but personal ruchnios, that's not for me. It's a synthesis. In life, it's so much easier to be an either or. But the challenge of being a Jew is trying to be a little bit of everything. Our job in this world is to be a synthesis persona of a Moshe and an Aaron. To know that there are times for isbodedus, times to work on myself, but also times where I have to give up a little bit of personal piety to be there for the klal, to be together with my brothers and sisters, and to build up Am Yisrael. Wishing everyone a freilich and Purim and a guten Shabbos.